What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Average Bob. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're going to touch on a bunch of different things we got on tap. I'll put show notes on this side over here so you can see if you want to go to a certain area of the episode and go over to that. It will be very helpful for you to do so and easy to just click. I'll add it to the sliding bottom bar as well. And where we're going to get started here is our Week 9 matchup coming up between the Giants and the 49ers. But first, where I want to get started, we'll touch on the preview of that game, but where I want to get started is just going back to and touching on a few things regarding the Giants-Eagles game, which just got completely out of control, primarily the refs. I was debating doing a fuller just video about this in general, but, time got away from me. It's already Thursday. So let's just put it in the past and move on. The refs absolutely sucked in this one. There was just so many missed calls, and I did post in my longer version of my weekly reaction and breakdown video. I did do a clip of that video that I posted yesterday, specifically speaking about the blown calls that led up to the Skattebo injury in detail there. So just to highlight again, and you can watch the video up top, and I could touch on some things I might have missed there. But really, when you look at it and how it shook out, run the tush push. And the tush push is just getting super lame in terms of you can't truly officiate it. So let's call it a spade, right? And I do think the Eagles have the right to run a play that can't be stopped because everyone else tries to run it. They can't do it. But when it becomes unbound by the laws of the game, it's just that's where the argument will come in, and especially with the injuries too. I think a couple weeks ago, DJ Davidson got hurt as a result of the play, and then guys are false starting all the time, but they don't call it. And then in this play specifically against the Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau actually knocks the ball out. Where how many times do they allow the Eagles to run for 4, 5, 6 seconds to try and push the pile, right? And then they blow it dead there, and it's really reviewable because they blew it dead. I don't know. Something has to change with those rules in general. Let a play out and then go back and change it no matter what. You're blowing it dead he wasn't down and the ball was out. So that has to be reviewable because it changes the entire dynamic of the game. And more importantly, if the Giants get the ball there, maybe Skattebo doesn't get injured, but the Eagles end up scoring. Going back, the Giants get the ball back, have a first down, run with Tyrone Tracy, called back for a bullshit block in the back hold, a penalty on Wan'Dale Robinson where he had no impact on the play, didn't really it just wasn't really a penalty. And then you have a delay of game, next play, which obviously is a penalty, but I called out in the video, they didn't call that on the Eagles one play. And so it was just officiating was bad across the board. But specifically, then next you have a longer yardage scenario, and you do kind of a quick arrow route to Skattebo, who then gets hip drop tackled from behind and dislocates his ankle. So it's just so much final destination or just craziness that led up to that, where in an alternate world or the other version of the metaverse, Skattebo doesn't get hurt, right? And the Giants get the ball back on that tush push, but they don't. The officiating too on the Darius Slayton touchdown, as much as I am not a fan of Darius Slayton at this point of his career, what he's paid and the value that he brings to the team, that call was horseshit. And there's two guys kind of hand fighting. I think it was what I said in the video, the last arm, when he puts his arm down a little bit at the end there, that's what caused it. But it's still, for offensive PI, it's got to be way more worse than that. And Darius Slayton probably, I don't know, maybe he just doesn't get the respect. Speaking of respect, we'll touch on that in a little bit, but of the refs and officials, because top wide receivers aren't going to have that called on them. Jamar Chase isn't going to have that called on him. So Darius Slayton's been around the league for a very long time, and he's not getting that call. So that will be a deeper conversation about how the Giants need to move on from him this offseason, which they probably can't because of his dead cap space, but just finding a wide receiver too. But enough about that. Again, closing off on this note, because I don't want to talk about the refs this entire episode, but it sucked. I think Brian Daboll had every right to be pissed off, and I think he also should have said, hey, listen, after the game, he's going to get fired anyway, so Why? And he already got fined for going into the medical tent, that I had a lot of issues with, or yelling at the doctor. So what's yelling about the refs sucking? I mean, it still doesn't change that you're not a good coach, and that you can't have a management of timeouts, play calling, so on and so forth down the list, especially the penalties, which the Giants are in the bottom of the league in terms of penalty yards per game. So that was the word I was looking for to use here, undisciplined. Next up, with our boy Skattebo going down, he successfully underwent dislocated ankle surgery. Season's over. Expect to make a full recovery and be ready for the 2026 season, per Ian Rappaport. It just sucks. And also, Malik Neighbors just had surgery too recently, this week. So they're both, I think, should be ready for next year. Obviously, when you get hurt this early on in the season, the closer I feel like you get to the end of the calendar year is when you start getting iffy for the next season. But it just sucks. Injuries are a part of the game. I feel like when the Giants do have something special, we always do lose a guy for a season. And sometimes it ends careers. And for seasons, you could go back to Jeremy Shockey. And for careers, though, you're looking at guys like, and Saquon and Daniel Jones all tore their ACLs. But when you're looking at careers, Hakeem Nicks had a foot injury. Victor Cruz, knee injury. David Wilson, neck injury. So I think Skattebo is young enough to be able to fully, with a strong doctor presence and rehab focus, and he's clearly a bruiser whose life and identity is being a running back with the play style that he has. He will be able to bounce back with that, mindset, and it just sucks because he seems like such a great guy. But I just hope that everything goes well with everything, because it seemed like this surgery was an emergency surgery and the dislocation was worse than initially thought. I mean, obviously, I didn't think it was going to be good anyway when someone's ankle is turned into 180 and you're looking at them and he's trying to get off the field. Just sucks because he seems like a really good kid. And this was, one of the first times as a Giants fan in a few years where we've had something fun that we could be pumped up and excited about. And you see other people rooting for us because they want to root for him. So best of luck to Cam Skattebo for his surgery, his recovery, and his rehab, and we can't wait to have him back to start next season. I think Shane Bowen, moving on to the next segment here, just talking about, probably a weekly segment at this point until Shane Bowen is fired, is just his play calling is just so bad. Guys blowing assignments. I'm not even going to be mad at the DBs that we sign off the street because of Holland and Debo both being hurt, but the scheme is just so bad, and you're giving up runs on 2nd and 31 to Tank Bigsby, not even Saquon, and obviously, Tank Bigsby has talent himself. He went for over 100 yards in that Eagles game, but where is Shane Bowen? It just seems like he's lost his team completely. I know on social media, a lot of Giants fans were pointing out during like a mic'd up thing against that first Eagles game, everyone's high-fiving each other on the sideline, all pumped up, and no one even looks at Shane Bowen. No one gives him the time of day. They don't even shake his hand. And maybe that's just from the clips, or we're not seeing the full story. Maybe they were hugging 2 seconds before that. But based on what the Giants social media team chose to post, and contextualize it, doesn't look good, and it doesn't seem good either. And Burns and Dexter and all of these guys can say that they believe in him and the scheme, and that's just because they're consummate professionals, and they are very respectful individuals. But I think the writing should have been on the wall after the Broncos game. Heads needs to roll. You can't. Firing anyone right now probably doesn't do anything, but it might be like, okay, good, we got an issue away from this team, so we can start building for the future. And teams respond to that stuff. That's why they fire head coaches in seasons all the time. And then what happens the next week? The team wins. So, yeah, I don't think I really want to say anything else about Shane Bowen, but I hope the Giants are starting to think about the future for their defensive coordinator, maybe someone from college, maybe someone from the NFL. Yeah, the coaching carousel is going to be crazy this year. I don't think any of those fired college coaches should obviously have an NFL job, but I could see someone like Bill Belichick, if the passion and the fire was there to make an NFL comeback, and he doesn't want to be a head coach, but he wants to be actually, he would never be a coordinator. So I'm wrong on that thought, but who knows? Maybe 2026 Giants head coach. Next up is kind of falls under the shit that happens when you're 2-6. You have Giants legends and respected members of the Giants community and former players criticizing the ones that are currently playing. And in this week's episode of that, we have all-time Giants great Carl Banks going after Dexter Lawrence. So I want to get started by discussing Banks's comments and then lead into Lawrence's response. So I want to provide the full transparency and contextualize this for you so you could understand exactly where each party is coming from. And then I want to give my commentary on it because I think it's not like Carl Banks said, nobody respects you, Dexter Lawrence, and that was it. And it's like Carl Banks as a man doesn't respect Dexter Lawrence. I don't think that's the case. So let me read the quotes for you here. I might actually play the video. It's kind of pinched for time, but the quote is from Carl Banks saying, Dexter Lawrence, nobody respects you anymore. Nobody. And he said this on his Believe in Giants podcast with Bob Papa. Your opponents do not. The pre-injury Dexter is not there in their heads. They don't respect you, and there's a difference. You're on the field. They're blocking you with a 5-year backup center, and you're not making a difference. The old Dexter would. There are a lot of things that go into your performance. Only you know what that is, whether you're still recovering or not. I'm just telling you now, I'm looking at enough tape that your opponents don't respect you, not like they used to. Seems like harsh words from Carl Banks, but to add to that, I think we all see, and I don't want to say that there is a true regression from Dexter Lawrence, but I mean, I guess when you're over 8 weeks into a season and you're not back to the form that you were pre-injury last year, that's where people are starting to get concerned. I don't know if I agree with the disrespect part, because we all saw the clips when, for so many years, last few years, offensive linemen and more importantly, coaches on the other team would be like, we have the game plan for 97. He's a game wrecker. He's, the entire anchor of that defensive front, and he's making plays. And last year, I think, what did he have before he got injured? Like 8.5 sacks, which is crazy for an interior lineman. And I really was hoping that he would be able to get back to that pre-injury form, because we all saw how good he was taking over games. One of my most popular videos on here was just talking about one play that he did where he kills 3 people. Maybe I'll put it up top because it is awesome. But having said that, it's tough to say, because calling him out, what does that do? It's just creating more locker room drama. It's like, why can't Carl Banks, if he is such a and I guess he has his podcast, he is on the radio, he has to talk about these things. But I think when you talk about respect, and I think when it comes out of context, there is the issue, because Dexter Lawrence's teammates respect him. The locker room respects him. I think a lot of his opponents still respect him. So to say that no one respects you anymore after 8 games in a season, coming off of where you were hurt and you had a record or your highest amount of career sacks in a season, missing a shitload of games too, I don't think it's necessarily right and accurate. Has he not been playing up to his caliber and potential that we all know he can? Yes. But he is far from the problem on this defense, that the coaching's terrible, and then you're getting bad linebacker play, and DBs are getting cooked all the time. So is Dexter Lawrence the problem here? The Giants haven't been able to stop the run for years. I've been hammering that home on this channel. Since they traded Leonard Williams, the Giants have not been able to stop the run. With Dexter Lawrence, even in his prime, even having the seasons that he had last year before he was hurt, still couldn't stop the run. Is this on him, or is this a scheme issue? Because we all said how great he was doing last year, and now you want to maybe point the blame on him for not being able to stop the run or something. It just hasn't been what he's had to do the last few. I mean, he's an interior D tackle. It should be, like, in my head, from a historical perspective, that's usually what they're trying to do. But it takes 10 other guys on the field, and the Giants haven't been able to find 10 other guys on the field paired with a good scheme to stop a run, situation, or other teams' rushing attack. So that's why when I'm doing previews week to week, I say, hey, look at Saquon, anytime touchdown and over rushing yards. Look at Christian McCaffrey, anytime touchdown, over rushing yards. Because it's been happening. It's been frequent. But to wrap up, and let's go to Dexter Lawrence's comments about, in response to Carl Banks, when a lot of the beat writers surrounded him in the locker room trying to make this, as big of a deal as they possibly can. Lawrence responded with saying he's delusional. His words are delusional. Both of the videos, the first and response, so you can watch them without me butchering exactly what he's saying. And then Banks followed up and expressed love for Lawrence, saying, I love Dex. We'll continue to support him and his teammates publicly. I wish him great success. He remains my favorite Giant, as I stated on my podcast. In order to get out of the current mess, he will have to ask more of themselves. I've been, in my opinion, fair. My critique's observation as well as my commentary of not just him, but others. I do that publicly, weekly. I absolutely 100% agree with Carl Banks and his overall commentary of the team. I don't think he's unfair or unbiased. And let me explain to you why. And I know football, there's only 17 actual games a season, right? But when you're watching Knicks games, Rangers games, Islanders games, Nets games, Yankees games, Mets games, the people that are watching those games day in and day out, calling the games on the radio, on TV, and SNY and Yes or MSG, they never say anything negative about the guys on the team. Never. It's almost to the point where it's like they're blinded a little bit because I don't know, maybe because the TV rights, or maybe because they fly sometimes they're on the team like flights and stuff. I know that happens for Mets games a lot. I could say that as a Mets fan because that's what I know, right? But I know that sometimes they travel with the team. And it'd be really awkward if Carl Banks was sitting next to Dexter Lawrence on a flight to wherever they go next, and he's like, there could be hands thrown, But that's probably why in those other sports they don't say anything, because there's a lot of travel, and there's just so many games. So maybe, I don't know. But I do appreciate Carl Banks and Bob Papa watching this team objectively and calling out when there's piss poor play, because you see it, I see it, and we know what's right and wrong, and it has to change. But to wrap up the whole conversation here, I think Dexter Lawrence is the least of this defense's worries at this point in time. Should he be playing better? Yes, 100%. Should they all be playing better outside of Brian Burns? Yes, 100%. So you can get critical about whatever you want, but I think when you talk about respect and it doesn't get the full level of how the person said it and the other words surrounding it, it gets a little dicey for me, because Dexter has earned the respect of the league, the team in the locker room, the Giants, and us as fans. And he's been nothing but a model citizen. And there's a lot of other total pieces of shit out there. If you want to talk about respect, probably on this team, but definitely in the NFL. Next up, we're finally going to get to the preview here. This has been a little bit different of a format from my previous preview shows that I've done. But to touch on this one, the 5-3 49ers are coming to MetLife Stadium this Sunday at 1 p.m. And the 49ers are coming in as road favorites, with the spread being at 2.5 right now. This is a game where I believe Brock Purdy is playing again, coming off of some injuries that he's had throughout the season. A couple different injuries. I had him in fantasy, so I ended up dropping him because he had a shoulder or a leg and was just all over the board. And it seems like the 49ers were okay a little bit without him. Obviously, I think Mac Jones wasn't the preferred option for them as a team, but let's be honest here. This offense and the whole team identity goes to two people, Christian McCaffrey and Kittle. Obviously, we've seen a lot of both of them on the just national highlights and everything that they do, and this is a game I would actually consider going to, just because I think it would be fun to see a generational player like Christian McCaffrey play in person. And with that, he is the absolute, the offense will go through him for passing, rushing, and then they use Kittle in a lot of those quick routes, play action once they've opened it up with McCaffrey. And then Kittle is also such a good blocker. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. But yeah, this whole offense is going through two guys. I didn't realize, I'm looking right now at the screen in front of me, Christian McCaffrey has almost 600 receiving yards, which is crazy compared to 490 rushing yards. When you do have a backup quarterback in, as Mac Jones had 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions through his time as a starter this season, probably a lot of checkdowns, and you got to be creative. And I think Shanahan does a good job of doing that in terms of, trying to leverage players to the best of their abilities. They do have a lot of banged up guys. I think Warner went down. Warner went down for the season. There were some other guys banged up on their defense, so that's why the spread isn't bigger. But I like the Giants in this one because of the play of Jackson Dart, who will step up at running back between Tyrone Tracy or Motor Singletary, or maybe they end up activating someone else. Like, I think Gray is eligible to be activated off the IR. Not that he's probably going to do much. Or Turbo Miller, who had a pretty successful preseason. We haven't seen him, so I'd rather see one of them two than Motor Singletary, but Motor Singletary is Dable and Shane's boy, and he's making like $5 million a year. You might as well get your money out of him. I would like to see some other guys in this offense step up. I mean, there's just still too many drops in key places. It's going to be interesting to see how they game plan for this one. Dart is going to have to do Jackson Dart things for the Giants to win this game. And I kind of like the Giants in this spot here. At home, an opportunity to get back on track after getting your ass kicked in Philadelphia. It's a tough schedule this year, man. No one was ever going to sugarcoat that it wasn't. As much as I've been ragging on the Giants defense and scheming and all of that stuff, I do think the Giants right now have enough firepower, even though we just spoke about Dexter Lawrence for a while. But with Brian Burns having 10 sacks, league leader up there in sacks with 10, having the season that he's having, I think he's able to do enough to take over these games, especially in key spots. I would say this game is going to be within a field goal, one way or another. Probably say, let's give a final score here of, let's make it weird, 25-23. and or 26-23 or 26-24, something like that. I feel like that would be the thing. And I think the Giants defense will be good enough to try and force them to go to other guys in that offense outside of McCaffrey and Kittle. So I like the Giants in this one. That's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys all have a happy Halloween. Let me know in the comments what you think's going to happen coming up in the Giants 49ers game. And if you like this video, please give a thumbs up or comment. It helps the algorithm. And yeah, let me know. If you like Dexter Lawrence or respect Dexter Lawrence, give a like.